government solutions to problems. This is the government solution to a problem. More words written on the screen. You know, we're trying to get the kids to get off the screen reading their words there. So let's put more words there. That's a government fix right there. And that's why I push back so much on some of their other fixes in other areas of things. Because it's like, this is going to be a mess. This is going to be a mess. I don't think a Surgeon General warning is going to work. What's going to work is get the four of you at that dinner table every single night. Start talking to those kids, yelling at you because you're decent parents and you're already doing this. But 8 billion people didn't. Was done up today, WRQK.com on that. So last season, the four teams in the AFC North all finished with winning records. Tough division in football. So now the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns are all going to be featured in Hard Knocks in season. Hard Knocks now doing more than one series from what I understand. So they've been doing an in-season version. This will debut for you on December 3rd. According to ESPN.com, that will then run through the rest of the regular season and your playoffs. According to them, last season, the AFC North became the first division to have every team finish with a winning record since 1935. Apparently, the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals all combined for a record of 43-25 last season. That's the highest win percentage of any division in football. No other division in all of professional football combined for more than 35 wins last year. And again, the AFC North combined for 43. Bengals coach Zach Taylor said in a statement, quote, "We don't think, we know this is the best division in football." Well, that's what a coach is going to say. I think it's one of the tougher divisions. It becomes a little difficult to claim this with sports because of how fast things, it used to take you forever to flip your team over. Now it's like, one off season, they got it figured out, right? Like things are moving faster than ever before. It's because teams are moving off of draft picks, right? But Zach Taylor went on to say he understands that that's what makes that division an attractive pick. He said, quote, "Hard Knocks, and it's an honor to be a part of a division that people think so highly of. We have an exciting team with a lot of really talented players and good team guys. They are players that the league is excited about, so this exposure will be positive." Yeah, I think the Bengals do have some players that I think fans around the league are excited about. Joe Burrow seems to be one of those. Jamar Chase would be another. T. Higgins, I believe, signed his extension, right? They got a deal done with T now. And, a lot of people thought he was going to leave. People thought the Browns should be trying to make a move for T. Higgins. We'll see what happens with our own wide receiver room. We got a little drama surrounding Amari Cooper right now as he's looking for a contract extension. The Ravens, you may remember, were the first team to be featured on the original Hard Knocks. That back in 2001. Man, that feels like it is a long time ago now, but I remember when that came out, it was all the rage. And as a big football fan, I was like, this is kind of cool. We're going to see behind the scenes of all this stuff. That'll be kind of cool. And of course, we've had a million copycats come out since then, right? Amazon has a football show that they do in season. I mean, everybody's kind of jumping in on this train. Look at Netflix with Quarterback. They're now Netflix is bringing out wide receiver, which I actually think will be better for those two series. The league is quarterbacks, and they matter more than anybody else on the field 10 times over. That cannot be debated. But wide receiver is the diva position. There's a personality in there, but we don't really know. Be the adult in the room, a little boring. Kirk Cousins, right? I know a lot of people don't think Kirk is any good, but that's almost the mentality you want. Head down, team first, do my grind, first in, last out. When wide receivers, you're looking for some drama. Give me the grills, give me the nice one hand. Get edge rusher. Do we get, cornerback? Do we get this? Oh my God, they showed the Ravens so much more. Oh my God, they showed Cincinnati Bengals like the Taylor Swift thing. Oh my God. Never had a losing season thing, yet they don't seem to kick on the door in the playoffs, make the AFC championships, make the Super Bowls the way that franchise is accustomed, and their fans are accustomed to it. So that's interesting right then. And But then you add the fact that once you moved off that hometown quarterback, what'd you do? Went and got Russell Wilson, who has been very polarizing around the NFL for the last 5 years. Some of the stuff when he first went to Denver, the walking up and down the fuselage of the plane while the rest of the team sleeps, and he was working out on the plane, having his own meeting room, having his own, there was some weird stuff that was happening there. I think Russell did himself no favors. I'm a fan of him on the field. I think he's done himself no favors making friends around the league. He's just a weird kind of guy. A pocket protector kind of feel to him a little bit, a little nerdy, a little square. I mean, I don't feel like this is appropriate for me to necessarily get in, but the insinuations when he was in Seattle from the defense was he wasn't black enough for the locker room, and they had kind of had an issue there. Again, Richard Sherman kind of led us down that path. That's not me, right? So I think he's had some problems winning locker rooms over Russell has. He can be a little polarizing. So how does it go in the Steel City? I'm very interested to see that. Meanwhile, you also went out and got Justin Fields, who's now sitting right behind Russell Wilson, who hasn't been necessarily world-beating the last couple of seasons. Is he breathing down Russell's neck? How long is that leash for RW? Can't wait to see it. So when you tell me I'm getting all of that with Hard Knocks, bring it on. Especially since I think we have, meaning the Browns, not we, but the Browns, have a chance to not coming off looking like the most dysfunctional team in the AFC North. Fingers crossed. Do you remember the last time we were on Hard Knocks? I do. Remember when Todd Hurley was undermining every last thing Hugh Jackson was saying? Now, Hugh Jackson wasn't a great head coach, none of that, but when I remember I came right in here the next day, I was like, we got problems here. We have problems here. This offensive coordinator doesn't think this coach is any good. He's undermining everything he's saying. There's attitude all over the place. They're going to have to blow this thing up again. And sure enough, hater, you're wrong, hater, and all this stuff, right? Most of you knew. It was like, this doesn't look good. So I'm interested to see, is that what I'm going to be seeing this year? Because I don't think so. I think Kevin Stefanski's got his arms around this franchise a little bit. And I also think he has more leash than maybe any other head coach that's coached underneath Jimmy Haslam has had. He's probably earned that a little bit. The team seems to respond. They seem to be accountable. Don't make it all about that playoff game last year. They showed up and they weren't ready to go. The defense looked past that offense from the Texans a little bit. They looked past that young quarterback just a little bit. And he had them on their heels from play one. I don't think that's indicative of Kevin Stefanski not being able to coach, right? I don't think that's that. I think some of the players got a little too guilty of buying their own hype, thinking that they were going to just cruise past Houston. But I think the Browns have a chance to come off looking pretty good in this. They also have a chance to have a pretty good season because, again, what the hell is the quarterback situation going to be in Pittsburgh? And all you got to do is ask Tom Brady how easy it is to win a division when somebody else in your division starts to be a little dysfunctional. Now, granted, he had 3 teams in this division for about a decade that were dysfunctional. The Browns aren't going to get that lucky. I don't think you can call the Bengals dysfunctional. You definitely can't call the Ravens dysfunctional. I think that's even too far of a word to be using with the Steelers right now, although I think you could have a little bit of a weird situation at quarterback. Normally, the theory is when you have 2, you don't have 1. I think we're going to move forward in the NFL, and you're actually going to see probably 10 years, if not under, a more 2-tier quarterback system come into the NFL. Look at all the injuries that's been happening with quarterbacks and the like. I think we could see it, but it ain't going to be this year. It will not be this year. There's another sports story I wanted to get to just a little bit. We touched on this yesterday, but not this angle of it. Bryson DeChambeau won the U.S. Open. He's the 124th winner of that U.S. Open. He is a 2-time U.S. Open winner. That is hard to do. Bryson DeChambeau is a damn good golfer. He also plays with LIV, not the PGA. They've decided now the LIV guys can come and play in the majors. I understand wanting to have the best players on the planet in the majors because that's what makes it a major. However, I think once you do that, you kind of tell everybody the rest of our sport doesn't matter. We're a 4-time-a-year sport. And that's already what golf was for the casuals. Now I kind of fear like that's what it's going to become for golf fans as well. I don't necessarily love it. I'm not anti-Bryson DeChambeau winning. I'm actually happier he won it now than his first time. This guy has done an about face with his public persona like no other athlete, maybe. Not as fast. People hated Bryson DeChambeau. They couldn't stand him. And now all of a sudden, he's everybody's favorite golfer. I don't know how he did it, but he did a pretty good job of changing the perception of who he is. When I used to see him on the course, I'm like, this guy's an idiot, I hate him. Then I started watching videos of interviews with him. I was like, oh, he comes off way better in an interview than he does on the course. And even then, he would say the wrong thing. Over like the last 2 years, honestly, since the live thing, I don't know if it's like there's more freedom over there. He feels like he can be more expressive. I don't know what it is, but he's really changed the persona. And now everybody loves him. However, I think that's going to be short-lived. See, because Bryson DeChambeau made a mistake, according to a lot of people in America, after winning that U.S. Open. Do you know what it was? Because, again, I'm not the only person to be talking about this. Golf media has been talking about this. ESPN's been talking about this. Fox Sports has been talking about it, about how he's changed the public persona on him. He has. But now I see one video, and sure enough, every comment is, how dare he? How dare he? How dare he? Can I ask why nobody's asking, how dare Jack Black show up in an American flag overall, act like an idiot for the current president, and that's not a problem? If you can do that on a stage and make an ass out of yourself wearing the American flag onesie, if you can do that and be an idiot for yourself, and that's good, then there's no problem with Bryson DeChambeau drinking a drink with Eric Trump. I'm sorry, I don't see the issue with that. You can get your team signed up for the Stansbury Cup, our golf outing next month, that July 24th at Raintree. Looking forward to seeing you guys out there. We'll do a long drive, closest to the pin, longest putt, standard golf outings up there. Have some cool giveaways for you in the gift bag as well. We'll see you guys July 24th. Get signed up today, that at WRQK.com. A little earlier, we were talking about the Surgeon General, and it's because he called on Congress yesterday in an op-ed. He's looking to put a Surgeon General's warning on social media. They're saying teenagers are spending upwards of 5 hours a day once you start throwing in stuff like YouTube, which I would imagine that's true. Although for a lot of people, watching YouTube is like watching TV, right? They're just watching things maybe that were, 30 minutes or an hour-long episode of something that's not on anymore, doesn't stream somewhere, just watching videos and the like. I don't know if that's the same thing as social media. Now, the television was social media when I was a kid. It was like, don't put your kids in front of the TV too long. Remember when sitting too close to it was going to make you go blind? You all remember that? I remember parents being yelled at for, don't just use Barney as the babysitter, right? And now TikTok is the babysitter, which I think TikTok's probably worse than Barney. I mean, even some of the songs that have been coming out of TikTok are worse than the Barney theme song. Even that can kind of be true. We kind of talked about how they want to put a Surgeon General's warning on socials. I don't think it's going to do it. I think we need to work on something. I just think it's going to have to actually be a different solution. And I think it's going to you're going to have to give kids an alternative, right? Hey, this reminds me when they said, oh, well, we're going to start suing video game companies because their video games are addictive. And we talked about this about a month ago, and I said, well, wait a minute. What are you going to do? Go back to a video game developer and say, hey, make this less fun? Like, I don't know if I love them. I didn't love the Truth commercials from, the tobacco issue back in the day. You're going to make an industry advertise against itself? I don't know if I love that. By the way, look at the pimp hand on your government. You made too much money off of this. Advertise against yourself now. Destroy your own business. I'm the government and I said so. Look at that. I don't know if I love that. Do I think cigarettes are good for you? No, they are not. I smoked for a long, long time, been off them almost 11 years, but I hate that. I hate advertise against yourself. I don't know if I love that. I gotta be honest, that sounds a little anti-American to me. Right? I also don't think the Surgeon General warning is going to. I think kids are going to go, yeah, we get it, boomer. They don't need to hear it from the Surgeon General. They need to hear it from their own age group. But even if they do that, they're just going to go, that person's a nerd. I know, Dad, but that person sucks. We hate them. We don't even hang out with them, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of that. This, like most things, People aren't going to think it's a problem until it becomes a problem for them. Then all of a sudden, everybody will look around and go, why did nobody try to help us? But the only way to really do it is restrict access. You can't do that because that's restricting freedom. And you know that's where I normally have my problem. Like, no, I'm about that freedom tip. So you should be able to have access to social media. I honestly think it's how the world's going to end. You guys want me to give you this conspiracy theory? All right, so I always say, when I saw how powerful social media was, I couldn't believe they gave it to us. Because it can be a unifier. We can band together. You're going to do what with the tax plan? You're going to do what with Roe v. Wade? You're going to do what with what? And we can all join together. But see, they knew they could give it to us because instead of doing that and banding together, what will we do? Find more things to masturbate to. That's what we'll do. And that's what we did. But I think what could happen, they realize, oh, they're starting to figure it out. They're starting to realize, dude, that both sides of this goddamn government are two wings of the same bird, and we're off to screw them. And they're figuring it out, that it ain't right versus left. It's us versus them. They're figuring it out, and they got the numbers. We're going to be screwed if they actually come together now. Out goes that plug. And then you're going to revolt because you're going to see it for real. They're against you. And they don't want you banding together. I think that's how we could get massive destruction in today's world. This thing you love that you are now addicted to, dependent on. I think one day they could yank it from you because of how much change it could bring about. Everybody thinks they want change until they realize their power is going to go away once things do change. Then all of a sudden, I don't know about that change, man. I don't know about that hope stuff. I don't know about that change stuff. Can't be having that. I think that's on the list of possibilities that end up destroying the earth. Because I think people are going to go absolutely crazy if that happens. Now, there's a lot of money being made on those things, and powerful people are making a lot of money with it. So I know what the pushback's going to be. You idiot, there's too much money being made. They'll never unplug it. Okay? Unless it absolutely starts to threaten that money versus help it, then they might. And I think that's when you could see people come together in the street and realize, oh my God, this is what the bumper stickers were about. I like Ike. That's what all of this has been about. To distract us, to not get us together with one another. See, it's red versus blue, don't you know? Like the Crips in LA, that's what they're doing. It's like the gangs in LA, that's what they're doing. It's red versus blue versus us versus them. And I think once that gets really flipped over, that's what I've been meaning the entire time when I've been saying, I can't believe they gave it to us when I saw how powerful it could be. Because that's what it could do. Will we do that? Well, probably not, man, because we got OnlyFans. And so let's just masturbate 6 times a day and see if that works out.
It's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash.
Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say, your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions.
Because as much as people love Michael Jordan, young NBA players, Kobe was their dude. That was kind of their guy. A lot of those guys grew up with Kobe and not necessarily Michael Jordan, right? And so I thought when Kobe died, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. We're going to update the NBA logo. And they chose not to do that. But Jerry West had interesting things to say about that. We'll get back to those comments, and we'll do that in the 7 o'clock hour. Should talk a little NBA right now, as a matter of fact, as the Boston Celtics take a 3-0 lead on the Dallas Mavericks after winning 106-99 last night. Now, Boston in cruise control mode for most of that game. Like a lot of other NBA games, oh no, here comes the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden it's getting tight. It really does seem like the NBA, as long as you watch the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, you pretty much got it. Right? Like that's pretty much it. You don't really need the first 3 quarters. Just watch the tail end of that fourth quarter. You'll be fine. Dallas made a push. They tightened the game up a little bit, but sure enough, Boston stretches out to that 3-0 lead. You know what I'm going to say now, don't you? Tough morning for sports rigged. I saw it. Tough morning for you. You think the NBA wants sweeps? You think they want Boston out to a 3-0 lead? You think they want everybody all over social media for the last week talking about how this is one of the most boring NBA finals anybody has ever seen? You think that's what the NBA wants? So I guess my question is, do they rig it every year? Some years when your favorite team's watching? When does the rigging go down? When might that happen? Because I don't think the NBA wants a 3-0 lead by the Boston Celtics over the Dallas Mavericks. I don't. I think they want to see game sevens. Now, if you end up seeing a 3-game run by the Dallas Mavericks and we get tied at 6 and you want me to revisit this conversation, maybe we will do that. But I'm waking up in a world today where the best team in the NBA, at least in the Eastern Conference, won by over 14-game margin, I believe it was, and now they got a 3-0 lead. I'm supposed to believe that a team that good, who pretty much dominated everybody all year, somehow is being rigged to win the NBA Finals. The NBA and the television networks' homes do not want 3-4 game series. That's not what they want. They want long series with stars playing every single night. Very, very tough morning for the sports are rigged and I know it stands for the dub. Golfers, the Stansbury Cup, July 24th, Raintree Golf and Event Center. We'll see you guys out there. Get your team signed up today at WRQK.com. Looking forward to that event, obviously. Can't wait. And again, 8:45 this morning, I'll have Bert Kreischer tickets for you. What I have now is, I think, one of the weirder stories about mistaken identity I've seen in a while. I got sent this yesterday. I was like, this happened? The lead singer, apparently, of the Four Tops, I love Motown, is now suing a Michigan hospital. He's claiming racial discrimination after staff just assumed that the man had been delusional. Alexander Morris is 53 years old. He joined the Four Tops back in 2018, long after like the reign of their career, the height of their popularity, right? Like, let's be honest. Also, I think a lot of times those groups back in the day, they were called the Spinners or the Four Tops or this. You didn't necessarily maybe know everybody's name, right? But he ended up going to the hospital, this back in April of last year, with clear symptoms of cardiac distress. He had difficulty breathing and chest pain. He was placed on oxygen. However, when he informed the nurse and a security guard in the emergency room that he was a member of the Four Tops and he was worried about security concerns and the like, he's like, look, man, I got a lot of fans. I got a lot of stalkers out there. That they didn't believe him. Instead, the doctor thought he was nuts and ordered a psychological evaluation. Now, I'm assuming the doctor didn't say nuts. But they thought the man was crazy. And I got to be honest with you, on first listen of somebody saying that, I'd be like, wait, you think you're in the Four Tops? Is that a thing? Are those guys still alive? Is that the Four? Is that still going on? That would have been my first reaction to that. The suit accuses the hospital and 2 staffers, a nurse and a security guard, of negligence, racial discrimination, battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Quote, well, before I get to this quote, what I should tell you is they put him in the straitjacket. Like, they thought he was that crazy. Because he's telling them, look, I'm in the Four Tops. And I'm sure they're sitting there going, dude, the Four Tops are over. Like, that's not a thing. And you're not necessarily going to believe somebody right away. Now, we live in the age of the internet, right? Don't you maybe as a doctor send the nurse out of the room and go to your locker, get your phone. This is this guy's name. Can we Google and see what comes up about this guy? Can we see if there's anybody in the Four Tops named this? Now, if there is, now we got to figure out if this is this guy But I could imagine, like, at that point, it's like, well, all right, maybe. I mean, I guess he could be. This is Detroit, for crying out loud, right? The home of Motown. He literally, I guess, he could be this guy. They put him in the straitjacket, for crying out loud. He says, quote, "It was a terrifying experience to be in the middle of a medical emergency and then to be placed into restraints, to have my oxygen turned off, my personal effects taken from me, and no help from the doctors and nurses because of the color of my skin. Racial profiling nearly cost me my life," Morris said in a statement. His attorneys had released that yesterday. Morris had a significant known history of cardiac disease, they say, including the placement of stents. Previously, during his hospitalization, he was ultimately diagnosed with a heart infarction that may require a heart transplant, pneumonia, and then he suffered 3 seizures during that stay. Good Lord. However, his treatment was delayed because of hospital staffers didn't believe he was part of the famed Four Tops group. Wait, delayed? Does that mean we believe he would have been given premier treatment or moved to the top of the list of when they could get to it because he was in the Four Tops? I don't know about that. They say here, after a check-in, a nurse, a white security guard, and a white male emergency room doctor racially profiled him and wrongfully assumed he was mentally ill when he revealed his identity as a celebrity figure, the complaint says. All right, well, I think one of those things can be true without the other being true. How do I know it's racial discrimination? It could have easily been this. I don't know. I wasn't there. But how do I know? I think that's a pretty big leap, right? This feels like a little bit of a reach, if I'm honest. Because I don't think it's necessarily absurd to think a doctor who's dealing with all different kinds of people all day, sees a lot of people who are probably mentally, disturbed or something along those lines. And, they deal with a lot of different scenarios all day. I don't think it's necessarily absurd to think that that person doesn't believe you're a member of the Four Tops right away. Like, I don't think that's crazy, and I don't think it necessarily has to be a racial thing. I think it could have just easily has been like, I don't know, pick an artist. But like, if you go in there and tell somebody, oh, I'm part of this, they're not going to necessarily just believe that from the get-go. Especially when you start to think of the fact, like, the Four Tops are faceless. They're one of my... I don't know about my favorite artists of all time, but Motown is definitely my favorite music of all time. It's not close. I know I'm a Kiss fan. I like Tom Petty. I like that. But Diana Ross and the Supremes are one of my top 3 artists, too. Like, I absolutely love Motown. That I got kind of from my mom. My mom was the Motown person, right? I love Motown. Absolutely love them. Give me Smokey. Give me Marvin. Give me all that stuff. I love all of it. But if you showed me photos of all those groups, I couldn't tell you any of those names. None of those names. So I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it has to be racial discrimination for somebody to not know that Alexander Morris, who's not an original member of the Four Tops, joined the group back in 2018 after most people thought they were long over. I don't think it necessarily had to be racial discrimination. I think they thought you were crazy, and that would be enough. To not be listening to your patient, I would have, if I were him, I would have probably filed a lawsuit over that, because I think that's probably enough. 9 a.m., we'll take you through the world of new slang. I was like predicting which one of those slang terms will hold on and which ones won't. Like, on fleek. I remember when that came, I was like, nobody's going to talk. That's not going to be a thing. On fleek is not going to be a thing. And sure enough, it really wasn't a thing. I mean, like a month. But other than that, like, nobody talked about that. So we'll take a look at some new slang, try to predict which ones hold on, which ones will not. I'm always surprised by that a little bit. Like I said, or to open up the show, I said cool kind of stays around. Like, it just stays, right? Now groovy didn't. I'm kind of surprised. Again, I was saying last week that, I graduated high school in the mid-90s. And the 70s were having 60s and 70s were having a major resurgence there, right? You had Dazed and Confused, and Here Comes Bell Bottoms again, and all this kind of stuff, right? And blacklight posters and that whole thing. And I was surprised groovy didn't come back then. But we'll get to some slang, and we'll do that coming up now. My least favorite conversation is back. This bothers me. We all have things that annoy us. I have a pretty lengthy list. But this thing really does annoy me. And we've talked about this 1,000 times on the program. But a Los Angeles-based psychologist now and a social media content creator is receiving some backlash, and she should be. She posted on TikTok, Leslie Dobson did, And she says, no, I am not returning my shopping cart. Once my kids are in the car, I need to keep them safe. Quote, I'm not returning my shopping cart and you can judge me all you want. I'll stop her quote here to say, we are, you idiot. Quote, I'm not getting the groceries into my car, getting my children into the car and leaving them in the car to go to return the car. So if you're going to give me a dirty look, go after yourself, right? Small things like this is what shows character in a person, the first comment on her post said, and I agree. Okay, so first, she's a mother, right? She's a mother. She's got to get the kids in there. She's a mother. Yeah, I used to deal with this all the time. I'm a mother. And I used to have to say all the time, and apparently you're a moron too. There are 8 billion people on the planet. You aren't the only person to ever give birth. Do you have another excuse loaded up that I can push back? Do you have another one ready to go? Like, I get it. You do got to get your kids in the car. And if I see a parent struggling to get the kids in the car and they got the cart and they got to walk across, I'll ask, would you like me to take the cart back for you? I've done that. More likely with a woman than a man, obviously, right? The damsel in distress thing. Oh my God, are you toxic? But there's a little bit of that has happened. I've noticed every time I've offered, people are like, oh my God, why are you talking to me in public? Right? Like, we are afraid of strangers these days. I don't think there's a real good excuse on not taking your car. Circumstances, 1, 2, or whatever. But here's what I know. I in the parking lot all day that not everybody's dealing with an emergency. Why does this annoy you, Stansbury? Why are you always up on your hill about this? There's a million things to be upset about. This is your thing. Couple of different reasons there. First, I have been in the radio business a long time. One of the things you do while having my position is you deal with car dealers a lot. Auto dealers are on the list of bread and butter clients. Like, it's just kind of one of those things. You just kind of need them, especially in this world. You just kind of need them. So I have dealt with car dealers a lot over time. I've dealt with their service departments, with their general managers, with the sellers, with everyone. And I've also made car payments. Your car is probably the second most expensive thing in your day-to-day. It's probably at least top 3. Can I guess here? Mortgage, children's education, auto. I bet I'm in the ballpark for most of you. Now, some of you don't have a car payment. That's great for you, right? You know, that's great for you. You're probably saving some money there. But it's probably the second or third most expensive thing in your life. And so when people are just leaving something on wheels in a parking lot and it's just slamming into doors, causing dings, causing this, and that. Now, if you find yourself in that situation, May Collision on Cleveland Avenue and Middle Branch could help you get those dents out of that car, right? But that's if it should happen. You're not going out there trying to make those dents happen, and that bothers me. That people don't care about that for other people. Is that the number one reason why this bothers me? No, it isn't. The reason why this really upsets me is personal. I get called selfish all of the time. By you, by people who know me, by my family. It is true. I am a selfish person. It's not my favorite quality about myself, and I'm not 24/7 selfish. I can suffer bouts of it. Long they can be, I will admit that. And yet, I refuse to do this. And so then it annoys me. Because I am probably more selfish than you. You've given your life up to your family, to your kids, to this. I've done none of that. I've given my life up to me in the pursuit of making Dan Stansbury. Notice? Doesn't really work that well, does it? Nah, it kind of turns out you guys got that one right. Congratulations out there. But I constantly get told how selfish and self-involved and all this stuff I am. And yet I have the 30 seconds it takes. By the way, it's 30 seconds to turn around and take the cart and put it back in the shopping cart corral, if we can call it that. That's why it bothers me. It's because people are on me constantly about how all I care about is me. And yet this is one of those things. it benefits you? Not at all. It doesn't benefit me at all. It benefits you coming into the parking lot after me. But that's how we get a society. By wishing, like I do in my mind all day, that all I had to do was care about me. But I understand that for all of us to be able to live here, that's not really the way that's going to be. I have to suffer in silence and MF you underneath my breath walking through the parking lot. That's the way that goes. I sign out every day here, right? Be safe out there. Be good to one another. I don't necessarily think shopping cart when I'm saying it to you. But you taking that shopping cart and putting it back in the corral is you being good to one another. That's us being good to one another. I am a selfish person. And I've said since COVID has had so many people selling selfish as virtue like I've never seen in my life. My truth, my struggle, my this, my that, me. Everything is the religion of me now. And the shopping cart in the parking lot is another instance of that. And yeah, it does. It kind of bothers me. It made me happy when she posted this and she's getting absolutely brutalized. It's okay to be selfish as long as it doesn't affect other people, right? Like if you're like, no, dude, I'm not going out Saturday night because I'd rather do this. That doesn't necessarily affect them. They would like to hang out with you. It doesn't affect them. You dinging up, again, the second or third most expensive thing I have in my life because you can't be bothered to walk across the parking lot. And again, parents, there are 8 billion people on the planet. Will you stop looking at other people and telling them you have children and that's an excuse for you to do anything you want? Psst, they have kids too. It's 330-450-7625 to text the studio. You'll also need that number around 8:45 as I'll have Burt Kreischer tickets for you. You'll call in for those. We had been talking about the shopping cart again because this woman went viral on TikTok for saying she doesn't do it. She's a psychologist, which I think makes it worse. I think that's maybe even more of the reason why I get annoyed by it. This does annoy me, the shopping cart in the parking lot thing. Cars are expensive, so I hate it because of that. Also, I'm a selfish person, and I get accused and yelled at by people all the time for being selfish, and I probably should. I'm not saying don't say that. I'm just saying. And then I turn around, I see stuff like that. I'm like, that's selfish right there. That's selfish. And it is. It's one of those things where it's like, you don't really benefit from taking the cart back. Only the people who work at the store who have to go out and collect them, or the people who are looking to drive in the parking lot after you benefit. And if you don't care about any of that, I think it is a little telling. Like, I want to, okay, again, I keep leaning on this. I'm selfish, and I am. I want to be even more selfish. But I don't, because I understand it's like, well, that's not going to lead to a great environment for you, right? Most of you agree with me on this. The woman said, she got her 2 kids in the car, and that's the most important thing. And once she gets them in the car, she's not leaving, the car or their side or whatever. And look at what she did there, right? She tried to position herself as the good mother and kind of make you feel a little guilty about the fact that, oh yeah, dude, am I leaving my kid in the backseat of the car while I'm walking, 4 steps over this way to put it back? Notice what she did? She tried to put you on the opposite side of that. I'm a mama bear. I'm protecting my cub. She tried to put you on the opposite side of that, and it's failed, right? It's failed. Do I understand wanting to be able to keep your eyes on your kids at all times? Absolutely. I was a runner. I got lost at Randall Park Mall multiple times. I got lost at amusement parks. If you let my hand go, I was running. I couldn't wait to go check things out. I used to run out the front door of the house. I was like 3 years old. By the way, that's how I ended up getting victimized by the neighbor driving down the road, by the way, is that one day I just opened up the front door and ran out the house. I was 2 streets over. I was just that kid. I'm on the move. So I understand that. I understand wanting to keep your kids in front of you. They're important, right? The most important thing in the world. I get that. Can I ask you how everybody else in that parking lot was able to find a way to do this and you're the one who can't? Can I maybe ask you that? Because that seems to be a little interesting. Now, somebody said to me, she got her kids into the store without cars. All right, I don't know if that's the same thing as them putting them back in the car and then walking away from them in the parking lot. I'm not sure that's the same thing. He went on to say, reverse the process, though. Put the groceries